I would like to welcome Graeme from Counterpoint. He's one of the co-founders. And it's just a kickoff closed literally the week before we were going to start having Graeme's beers on tap. So this is a great opportunity. So I now get to try the beers.
The order was placed.
Yeah. Well, I should correct that. Yes, just before closing, Ed, Catherine, Jacqueline, and I, my wife, we did spend a little bit of time in an afternoon at Counterpoint. So
yeah, it's true. It was great to see you guys there.
Yeah,
a treat.
Looking forward to that again in the future.
Yeah,
not right away.
Yeah. Yeah, take your time. Take your time. We will as well.
Yeah. So, Graeme, what beer are we going to start with?
Yeah, let's get into it. I think just calls for a duet. We've got our duet 8, which I think most of you probably have. And because many of you know, our duet series is basically our pale ale series. It has changed slightly depending on what we have available. We keep the recipe fairly consistent and pair up 2 new hops, a duet of hops every batch. Although this was a repeat of number 8, I think we're currently on number 15. So with the Azaka and Citra, this one ended up a little clearer than our other ones have. And you know, of course, a nice light beer that does showcase the combination of hops. Generally like to just, not guide the drinker too much and say what they would get out of it, but for me, I get a little pineapple, a little stone fruit, and a little bit of maybe herbal tea.
I like that dry back end finish to it. It's my favorite style in IPAs.
Yeah, it works pretty much for everything. It's kind of I'd say, sort of our simplest style of beer that we have, and it's pretty accessible for anybody can enjoy it.
So Graeme, Mr. Hardy wants to know what style of glassware would you suggest?
So you know what? I didn't. I don't have a Counterpoint glassware with me today. I have Half Hours on Earth, lovely glass.
So I've got the Counterpoint glassware.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. And I would say anything along those lines that has a bit of a belly on it. Ed, you're not drinking from the bottle, are you? But anything with a bit of a belly, a bit of a nice bowl to it will accentuate the aromas and bring everything out to you, and allow you to enjoy it to its potential. We found that we tried dozens of glasses when we were before we opened. We were lucky enough that one of the glass suppliers reached out and said, "We'll send you anything." So we probably had about 12 or 15 types of glassware, and figured everything from the way it looks on how to hold it, how it felt when you drank it. So maybe overthought everything, but of course we just wanted it to be as perfect as possible.
Well, actually, it's interesting because not everybody takes time to figure out what the best glassware is for the beer that they're making.
And we had to pick one that, under sort of for our budget and simplicity, pick one style that would suit any style of beer. So figured it suited it best.
Yeah, it's pretty close to what I recommend people drink Scotch out of. A little bit larger for a Scotch glass, but
yeah, and I mean similar to shape to wine glass as well. It all really, your goal is to just get the best experience out of any drink.
That's true. And that when you're a brewery, you want people to have the best experience when they're at your space.
True.
So you spent a year at Glenmorangie. So I'm gonna bear off into the Scotch world because I'm a bit of a Scotch guy myself.
Happy with that.
And I'm curious what your favorite style of Scotch is.
Yeah, that's a tough one. generally depends on the mood. But
you and I were sharing a beer, and then we had dinner. Not that we're dating or anything, but then we were having a conversation later on in the evening. What style would you drink?
Yeah. Well, first of all, Bill, you're out of my league, and second of all, I would have dinner with you. Yeah, I think it depends. It depends on so much, but I do enjoy, no doubt, a nice Highland, clean Highland single malt. I've gotten into there are a few blends that I've enjoyed. Surprisingly, sort of. There's also been a bit more of an emphasis on creating better blends as well. And but I also can enjoy thoroughly a nice peaty malt, Lafroig or Lagavulin, especially. So yeah.
The
Much variety.
The Distiller's 18 Lagavulin is really good.
Yeah, I don't think I've had that one, but it sounds like I need to pay you a visit or have dinner.
We'll figure it out sometime.
Sounds good.
Actually bought all the bottles of scotch from Troy when he pulled his pick off.
Nice.
Just because eventually I'm going to start doing one a week.
Oh, yeah.
On a podcast, so.
Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Can't wait to buy that taster's pack.
Yeah. Well, we'd have to figure out 2 or 3 to try. Yeah.
Yeah.
Your specialty is creative beers. I'm curious, who or what provides that inspiration for the creativity?
So much, so many different factors involved in that. I would say right off the bat, when it comes to beer, creativity, and also knowing, whether how creative to be or push the limits while keeping things balanced. But Rich is a specialist in that department. For those who don't know, Rich is my partner and the head brewer at Counterpoint. He does most of the recipe design and the brewing, and he just has I guess it's sort of a knack for it, but that all comes from experience and study and research and trials, and he taught me how to brew, and he'd been brewing for years before I started to brew. So of course, during our homebrew days, we can make some ridiculous beers, and it doesn't really matter as much as creative as they can be. They could be totally disgusting, but now is not the time for for that. So it's all about being creative with balance. And even I would say, yes, we like to be creative, but with all the breweries out there now, and so many breweries are really pushing the limits as well. So I don't know really how, on the scale of things, how creative we are, but we like to keep things fresh, and we're lucky enough that we have a really small brew system that it allows us to experiment. And if we really must push the envelope a bit, we still do 5-gallon homebrew batches. So it allows us to experiment.
So now I do have to ask, what has been your most epic failure in a homebrew?
Oh no. I brewed a banana Belgian, which didn't really make sense because it was just already sort of banana-y anyways, and nothing came through. I think I chopped up dozens of bananas and tossed them in, and it didn't really do anything except go bad.
So
and I also
an awful lot of work with no return.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then also I'm very proud of this. The name of it, I called it "What You Talk About," but it was like a lime chili beer, but instead of chili peppers that I should have used just for a little spice, I used chili powder, which ended up tasting like a bunch of cumin and the general spices. So that was an epic failure, but great name.
Yeah. Darian, that's an interesting question. I'll have to get back to you on that one because I've never heard of anybody making whiskey from beer.
Right. Yes. So, well, I can touch on that. The initial process, right, of creating whiskey is essentially creating beer, not to the finished point, but you get your alcohol, right?
Yeah.
From mashing that, and then parallels. I know that, you know, different yeast, different strengths, and the final process of whiskey really depends on the barrels they're in, right?
Yeah. I like Remy's answer there. Whiskey's distilled beer.
Yeah, simple
Makes
enough.
it pretty simple.
Yeah.
It's a little more complexity than that, but that's really what it is.
Yeah.
Because it is a similar process.
Banana extract for beer. There's extract for everything.
Yeah.
For sure, there is.
Yes, it would depend on how artificial you want the flavor to be.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. They're being quiet tonight. I'm going to have to ask all my questions. I am curious how a social justice warrior and an opera singer meet at a squash game and develop a relationship and friendship that leads into creating Counterpoint Brewing. It's got to be quite the story.
Yeah, I mean, well, it really comes down to the simple answer of beer brought us together. Squash initially, you know, introduced us to each other, but beer was what sort of created the bond. And yeah, it was really, we were playing squash, chatting. We played a few times. We were kind of at the same level, so we played together a few times. Rich, I think, beat me more than I beat him, but it's all about having fun, not about winning. And from there, he, you know, sometimes we'd have beers after the game. And one day he just said, "Hey, why don't you come over after and you know, we got beer on tap." And you know, at that time I was like, "Oh, somebody's got a keg fridge. That's cool." And then he said he made it, and I was a little skeptical. And then I tried it, and it was delicious. So it was really amazed me that on a home scale, you can make a good beer, but also, you know, hoppy beer, stouts. I mean, anything is you know, you can produce if you put your mind to it. So that kind of blew my mind, and I took an immediate interest in it. And lucky enough, he took the time to show me a few batches, and then I started brewing myself. So yeah, I call him my beer Yoda, so wise, and you know, lots of advice, while also just, you know, kind of during those early stages being patient. Even now, you know, I jump on the system, make sure stay fresh, and I do have a small amount of creativity that I like to try and exert through beer, and that it's pretty cool, you know. And he's spent the time to set up all the system. He's very meticulous, as most brewers are, and yet he, you know, he's patient with you know, my continuous learning. Although he said he's still also learning, which is great as well.
That's true of most brewers, particularly when you're a microbrewer. You're learning all the time.
Oh, all the time. Everything is new.
Part of that whole world of collaboration is just to learn from each other.
Yeah. So. And that's it. It's the greatest thing in the beer community. Always many questions, many answers, and lots of exploration.
I have a great question just came up from Mandy. She's wondering what the method you use for naming the beers, because she finds the names quite cryptic.
We generally just try, you know, with the name Counterpoint, and you know, if you've been into our tap room, we've got, you know, some piano keys. I mean, our logo is essentially piano key with, you know, and beer, the beer glass. We kind of ran with a musical theme, especially with, you know, with Rich being, you know, opera singer, and I like music. I'm not very talented in that department, but thoroughly enjoy it, obviously, and gave us a cool opportunity to play around with a fun theme. So we do try and keep most of the names are somewhat musically related. It's harder than you think, I think, to name beers. You want it to suit the beer. You want it to be more or less something that I'd say a good amount of people will sort of understand or be able to pronounce, although we've gone off along the ways of, Italian musical terms, and that can get a little complicated for some. Even etude, which is or consonants, some people, if they're not familiar with music, they're not sure exactly how to pronounce it or what it means. So, but yeah, and just trying to have some fun with it too. So no real method to the madness, but again, with the amount of beers that we've done, it can be a little bit tedious to continue to name. I don't know what batch we're on, like 110 or 20 or something like that. So,
Well, yeah, because you have a smaller system than even Short Finger Brewing, right?
that's right. Yeah.
Yep. So you've got to constantly be brewing.
Yes.
Just
Yeah.
to stay ahead of the curve.
Exactly.
She also raises another question, which I find intriguing too. Have you ever thought up of a really cool name and then had to go and design a beer for it?
It's we've thought. I'd say I can say we have thought of. Well, that's an armful, Jen. We've thought of names and kind of banked them for an appropriate time. Haven't modeled a beer directly after the name. I can remember one, for instance, we just really wanted to make a beer called Ugly Delicious. After, of course, the Netflix TV series. It showed up. It just showed up on its own. We had it in the back of our minds, and luckily this beer turned out pretty damn ugly. So, and it was tasty. So we just called it Ugly Delicious. But so something like that'll happen. But. We're also open to suggestions. If any of you have any suggestions, please.
What's the second beer we're going to go to?
Yeah, I'm just gonna, I'm gonna grab mine from the fridge, but we'll go on to consonants.
Okay.
So, Bill, what's your favorite beer these days?
Oh, I have been trying so many different beers over the last 4 weeks that I don't. In the summertime, I tend to stick either with really dry IPAs, or I'm going to go with more of a Pilsner style or something that's got key lime in it.
Mm-hmm.
I might do a Goza style that's got a flavor similar like that, like a key lime flavor or a lime lemon flavor.
Yeah, that's cool. Actually, funny you mentioned that. There may be a lemon lime Goza in the works, so I'll have to keep you in mind.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah. So consonants is this is the second time we've brewed consonants. The first time was straight up orange. I believe it was navel orange and mandarin orange, and this time we've just added a bit of a twist to it with some grapefruit, clementine, and blood orange zest.
Wow.
Yeah, so a little labor intensive, lots of zesting, but we find it's worth it. Definitely get a bit of a zesty aroma there.
So Bob had a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a style that you're into more right now than any other?
Myself?
Yeah.
Always into imperial barrel-aged stouts, no matter what. And I find it really hard to turn that down. It wouldn't even matter if it was 35 degrees, on Arabella's patio. And if I saw something like that, it would probably be maybe not first on my list, but I would get to it for sure. Otherwise, I think a nice, juicy IPA. I never turn that down.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
And I do get that on a patio later in the evening, a good Russian Imperial Stout. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great way. Even
Now,
like
I have to go back up and see it. Limbic style beers that have a banana tone.
Yeah.
Now, just correct me if I'm wrong on this, but that is the style of yeast that you would use.
Yeah, I don't know so much lambics, but definitely the Belgian styles. Yeah, absolutely. A lot of the Belgian yeast will emit that banana ester, and therefore, yeah, it's just part of the yeast profile. So there's so many different yeasts, especially now with the labs, yeast labs not popping up necessarily, but focusing on beer yeast and the varieties that we can take advantage of it or avoid it depending on what we're looking for. If you guys are at all interested in even just checking out like Escarpment Labs website, they've got a few dozen yeast strains and great descriptions as well, and it's amazing that you could make the same beer and use a different yeast to finish it, to ferment it, and you would essentially have 4 different beers with 4 different yeast strains.
Do you keep a starter yeast for yourselves?
We use we generally get about 8 to 10 generations of yeast. So we'll pull the yeast prior to any additives or like fruit additives or hop additions. So we can reuse it again. We do keep a couple of batches of Brettanomyces as well handy, so we can dose that beer. We just brewed a Brett Pale, so we use that. We don't necessarily have to create starters every time, but we do keep our yeast flowing. Keep it going in the fridge. Saves money, it's less waste. It's perfectly good yeast as long as everything is sanitary. So things could go south pretty quick if one of those things gets infected.
Oh yeah. Most people don't realize that about brewing. Sanitation, and then maybe brewing. You clean brewing all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
Darian was curious if you have a favorite saison.
Yeah, I really enjoyed mango saison. We call it Saison du Fun. So one name that has nothing to do with music. But we just had fun with it, and it was kind of just a random experiment. I had done in my homebrew days a successful mango saison, and kind of took that recipe and we transformed it, added a bit of lime as well, and really tasty, nice, fun, and just enjoyable beer drink without having put too much thought into it while you're consuming.
Yeah. Nick would like you to repeat the name of the Brett beer you mentioned.
Unnamed as of yet. It is in the fermenter, and I would expect it hopefully early August. Just a Brett Pale, nice low ABV. Just depends when the Brett says it's ready.
Yeah,
so it's taking its time and getting funky, hopefully.
Just quickly jump in. There was a question really early on from Ed about what the inspiration and who was the inventor of the turmeric beer you guys have.
Oh, that was again sort of a combination of, it was a brainstorm. We were obviously designing that one. That was Ooh La La, for anybody wondering, was the counterpart to Short Fingers Ah Wee Wee. beer was our sort of distance collaboration where we brewed at our own breweries and designed beers essentially to be blended, and kind of a fun experiment that way. That being said, we weren't 100% certain it would work out until we tried it 9 a.m. before on the day of the beer release. So luckily it did taste good, and we sold it as such, collaboration. Turmeric was something we had kind of talked about, but generally just came out in the idea of maybe something citrusy, and turmeric being a pretty wild and different ingredient that I don't know has existed in a beer that I've tasted. So yeah, just something crazy. And so Rich did a few really small, like 1 gallon batches, applied turmeric in different ways just to find the try and find the best output. Of course, quantities as well. Add too much turmeric and it just can get really weird and not enough, and you'll never notice it's there. So
Interesting balance, isn't it?
yeah, that was, I was pretty skeptical until it turned out right to the end.
Graeme was wondering if you would explain what a Brett is.
I feel like that's a trick question. He seems to know a lot about beer. Yeah, so Brett Brettanomyces formerly would, one of those things that you may call a wild yeast, I suppose, not in the modern world, not traditionally used as a brewer's yeast, but prior to modern brewing, of course, that was pretty much just whatever happened to the beer, and one of those things that happened to fall into beer and fermented out and play a role in the production of beer was Brettanomyces. So there are many strains of Brett, and some give anything. So often enough, some farmhouse beers, you'll notice will have Brett. A lot of barrel-aged beers, that type of thing will have Brett in there, and they give you anything from a light sort of funk or to like some really intense farm smelling horse blanket, like you're cuddling up to a goat and going down for a nap, that kind of thing. You'll get a huge range. Yeah.
I'm just laughing because, yeah, trying to describe funk to people is always an interesting process.
Sure, yeah. And funk, nowadays, everybody, funky beers would be sour or whatever else, right? Anything but traditional or clean ferment can be known as or called funky. But to me, that is like funk. That's yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So Cam's interested because we've had previous guests on who have discussed the effect of water and your water source on the beer. KW is known for having terribly hard water and uses 3 different wells, which changes how hard the water is. Does that hinder your brewing or does it help your brewing?
So it depends on the style of beer. Obviously, there's a sort of a water chemistry behind, an ideal water chemistry behind every sort of style, whether it's pale ales or like lagers, that type of thing. For us, it has been fairly friendly. Our process was to, we talked to the city. They gave us a profile of the wells that we get our water from, the water chemistry behind each well, and as well as a guesstimate of, like kind of Bill said, how much we pull, the proportions of water that we pull from each well. So as that can change throughout the year, good doggy. That can change throughout the year or the day. It can be tough, but we pulled that, and then we also send our water to a lab just to confirm what the city given us, and it was actually pretty close to what the city had given us as a profile. So works out well. We kind of balanced that. We've used very little of anything in our water treatment. We just use a filter to dechlorinate, and we add a tiny bit of lactic acid just to tune in on the pH for mash. And that's pretty much it. So, luckily, what we could do in the future and what we plan to do is, as we grow, would be to fine tune that. But for now, that works well for us, for our system.
You did answer the question I was going to ask you, because the chlorine level in the KW water varies significantly across the course of a day.
Yeah.
So, but you say you dechlorinated, so that makes sense.
Yeah. It was a simple solution that, obviously makes a huge difference. So. Yeah.
Oh yeah, because that's something that's hard to deal with.
Yeah, we don't want to drink swimming pool water with hops or anything like that.
No.
Even Brett can't fix chlorine.
No. Terry and Emma are curious about the KW Blackest Beautiful brew that you guys participated in.
Yeah, I'd love to talk about that. Of course, as part of our mission, although we don't have it officially out there, mission statement, but is really just to, look, I think what it comes down to is we're lucky to be in a position where we have a small business, and we can use this as a platform to send a message if we feel is necessary, if we want to use our business as a platform to help organizations fundraise, raise awareness. And obviously in this case, Black is Beautiful is something that we really wanted to be a part of. And along with COVID making things very tough for people, the fact that racism is rampant, and there is a huge injustice to many people of color, that now is the time that I think we can take a stand and send a message out and do some good for our community. If we stood by and did nothing, then that would be very unjust to so many people. And to be honest, making a beer and for this purpose was probably the easiest thing and the least that we could do. So that's something that was very easy, of course, and working with a few other great breweries in town. So we're putting this collaboration out. Weathered Souls Brewing from Texas initiated this project, and along with Together We're Bitter, Short Finger Brewing, and Block 3, we decided to work together on this, put all of our efforts in so that we could really get the most out of the beer, make the really cheapest beer possible, so that all profits would go to an organization in town. So, and we've selected the African Caribbean and Black Network of Waterloo Region to donate our funds to. So they do a number of things, including fund community centers, community projects, and as well as do some work for justice for people of color that have been wronged. So lots of action there, and like I said, it's really a simple thing for us to do, but I think it sort of with our powers combined, spreads the love, spreads the reach, and goes much farther than just a simple single brewery project. So that will be out as well tomorrow, so available for purchase. There's as long as everything goes well on the technical side, Black is Beautiful KW website that you can purchase through, and you'll be able to pick up the beer at any of the breweries involved.
Great, because you answered the next question. Will it be available at Counterpoint?
Yes, yeah, exactly.
It is absolutely fantastic to know.
Yeah.
This sort of fits with, because as I told you last night, I trolled you on LinkedIn. Mm-hmm. And I really noticed that you have a history of volunteerism and community action. Right from spending time in the Philippines building shelter, to the work you do with Pound Dog Rescue, to the mandate that I read about Counterpoint being a supporter of diversity, a supporter of local community charity, And I'm curious, what's your inspiration for all of that?
I'm going to start first by opening the third beer.
Okay, we can do that. Which one are you opening?
So we're going to open Opus 2.
Opus 2?
Yeah. So Graeme, you're asking about Brett. There is Tenomyces from Escarpment Labs strain. It's Brett B. Their Brett B strain. So this beer might rise on you a little bit as it was bottle conditioned. So there's a little sediment, more sediment in the bottom. This was a Saison, which underwent sort of a secondary fermentation with Brett in a white wine barrel, and was in there for about six or 7 months, and blended with, if anyone had our Opus 1 barrel-aged sour, was blended with a bit of that to add a little tartness. And yeah, get in there. Everybody's going to get something a bit different, but that is like a bit funky and nice. I mean, I get a bit of the, the oak and notes of white wine in there as well. So comes through. It's been compared to sort of like a champagne-y kind of beer by some.
Yeah, the white wine for me came through immediately. You could just like, this is a white wine barrel.
Yeah. It's pretty fun to play with barrels for sure. We can get into that a bit more a little later, but yeah, regarding sort of I don't know, if it's a fight for good or justice, community justice, social justice, just trying to do some good things. It just starts off with, I mean, kind of a random, whether it's a random act of kindness or going out and trying to volunteer for something and a good cause. And to me, it's just kind of became addictive. So I guess when you talk about Pound Dog Rescue, they're a great organization. And there were friends of mine who started the organization, and I was their first dog foster, and who got it right here. So Blair, my dog, German Shepherd, and so she was the first foster through their system. And I was just kind of thinking, well, good time to have a dog. Maybe I'll try it out and take care of something temporarily. And she's still here, like 8 years later. So, but it felt great just to try to do something like that for a dog. And opportunity came up to volunteer with an organization called Global Medic. We're out of Toronto, but they're a very bare bones 3 or 4 employee organization, hugely based on volunteers who have the opportunity to have volunteer in town, whether it's organizations here that partake in that, like Google, BlackBerry. They've all sort of set up big volunteer days where their staff partake in packing water filtration systems or for first aid or like hygiene kits and that kind of thing for families to respond to natural disasters or war-torn areas and that kind of thing. So I volunteered with them for a number of years and was deployed to the Philippines, Nepal right after the earthquake, Philippines after the super typhoon. And once you start to see the world in that capacity, it's very different than taking a holiday. You learn to take things or not to take things for granted that you have previously. And it can be fairly stressful and distressing at times, but at the same time, I really appreciate that somebody in my position who's at home safe in Canada can do something, whether it's from home or travel and make a difference in, saving some lives, hopefully, and distributing aid that people really need. So it is a small, drop in the ocean, but every little bit can help. And I think that attitude can go a long way, whether it's overseas or at home. at home here. So yeah, it's addictive. If you haven't volunteered yet, go volunteer, do something for someone else, and it'll make you feel great.
Thank you. It was a very well placed statement.
Thanks.
Ed was wondering if you would tell us about the talks you've done at Conestoga.
I haven't.
Oh, you haven't?
No.
I thought I ran into you in the hallway one day giving a talk to the food school.
Where was that? No, I was taking a food safety course.
Oh, you were taking a course, not taking.
Yeah, I can tell you about that, but it's really boring.
Okay, I thought you were giving a talk. You were taking a course. Okay, sorry. No,
that's okay.
I mistook that. I totally mistook that. I thought you were giving a talk. I was excited that you were there. I would love to see you giving talks to them, because I think that you could. Their food school there is awesome, absolutely awesome, and I would love for people in our community to contribute to it. Like they're so exciting there.
Yeah, no, that'd be really cool. I think fermentation is in general is a pretty neat topic that I hope is covered in food school there in some capacity.
I'm sorry I mistook it. I ran
no worries,
the hallway there. Yeah,
I'd be up for it.
Hey, Graeme.
Anybody have any comments on any of the beers that we've had or tried so far? And of course, criticism is great and always welcome. Any favorites or questions?
I'll just say, Graeme, I love them as always, but I'm a lightweight, so I'm having the first two, and the others are gonna have to wait.
Yeah, I think I've had about a quarter of each beer. There's no way they're all going down.
I also have to admit fully that if you list something new, I will buy it.
Thanks.
I don't know if you have a time machine or what, but my order is always pretty much ready when I think I'm gonna buy beer.
Oh man, amazing. Just waiting for you.
Yep.
Graeme, I'll say that the Duet 8 is super rock solid, like really tasty. Like I could drink that to death. That stuff is so good.
Cool. Thanks, Dave. Yeah, Duet's something we've really just always kind of enjoyed. And although it changes, like I said, somewhat with the hops, it just keeps things kind of fresh. But yeah, it's just a pretty simple, easily consumed beer, I think. So thanks.
So Graeme, a question. What's the one thing you would want everyone to take away from this chat?
It's a good question, sir. I think if we take something away from a chat about beer, is that, well, a couple things. Thanks. Yeah, Graeme, got it. Volunteer. That was the whole focus of this beer chat. I'm glad I made my point. But it's just beer. So although we all, to some capacity, I'm sure, take beer very seriously, including Carrie and Emma, but take it very seriously and love it. Probably so much, and maybe more than some loved ones, that it is just beer. So enjoy it, no matter what it is, as long as it's palatable. And I think that it's so easy to get off track, and whether you point fingers or get too negative, but most breweries are here to do some great things and good things in our community, and just have created a brewery for you, for people to enjoy. So yeah, number one is just beer, but also that beer can be more than just beer, and be a drink that brings people together. A vehicle such as it's our All Together collab, or Black is Beautiful collab, and we've got some more sort of cultural focused beers that we're planning to brew as well. That it's also for the community. So I think that, you know, whether it's you asking your friend if he is up for a beer or she is up for a beer, whether you're having a good day or a bad day, like, you know, just hanging out, a beer can bring it together, or, you know, family affairs, yeah, maybe, or even breakups, right? But it's there to, and it can also have more of a purpose than just beer. So I think sort of two sides of things there. It can be simple, but it can also do a lot of good.
Thanks, Graeme.
Mm-hmm. Jen,
I had the same thing. A little bit of an explosion when I opened the bottle. It's okay. I can clean the floor later.
It's a beer. It's alive. So
it's definitely alive. I'm enjoying it.
Hopefully it didn't get too messy over there.
I can wash the floor. No big deal.
Okay, yeah. These ones are carbonated, and actually a kind of a funny story about the Opus 2, which may have led to minor explosions in your homes. But it's something that is a little bit tricky because it aged in a barrel, so it's permeable. Usually in our fermenters, you know, we know how much CO2 is still sitting in the liquid, so we can carbonate it accordingly when it comes to a barrel. And of course, we're using some priming sugar to reactivate it so that it carbonates in the bottle. It's somewhat of a trial and error game when it comes to carbonation level. So we did carbonate it and tried it weeks later, and it was semi-flat. So we had to open 500 bottles, add some sugar again to it, and cap them all right away so that they would carbonate. So again, sort of one of those, I guess, small brewery first, one of the, you know, first our third barrel aged beer, and so yeah, lots of learning.
All part of the learning curve, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
I know the first time we had a cask beer, Marvin, last week, we tapped one, and I blew I forgot what the technical name for the plug at the top is, but I blew the cap out of it and
Nice.
wore half the keg in less than 30 seconds.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, cask beers, yeah, along the same lines, right? You're priming, you're carbonating in that container, and anything can happen. So lots of surprises.
So you made some references to your mission statement. I've looked at what you have online about Counterpoint. How does Counterpoint reflect your values and goals?
I think, again, it's one of those things where, especially because there are really only two of us there, that it's very easy. It's almost hard to hide behind anything. So really, I mean, we built a business so that, you know, we could run it the way we'd like to. And so it's very much, I suppose, the image that, how to say this, we're not really camouflaging anything, is basically portraying what we are and what we stand for. So very easy to be, you know, to be inclusive. We like to make sure that, you know, as many people as possible from every different background and demographic feel welcome. And then again, sort of lines of community support. I mean, we know the community is supporting us as a small business, so you know, we want to turn around and give back. And so it would almost be harder to not use the business as an outlet to display our values and our sort of our mission, if that makes sense.
No,
Well-
I'm talking to you and not paying attention to the questions, as I've been pointing out reading the last one.
They're piling up.
They're piling up, yeah.
Sorry about the bird there, Graham. It's quieter outside my house than it is inside, except for this cardinal. Really annoying.
That's okay. I was on a call the other day and I have warblers and they were just
Yeah.
So Terry and Emma were wondering about Nyam at home this weekend.
Oh, Nyam, yeah.
Nyam, okay.
Yeah, so thanks for bringing that up. I should be like plugging these things away, and like you guys are doing it for me. So Nyam Revival Kitchen, it's NYAM if anybody's interested, is really Chef Tennille and team of Chef Tennille and her wife Rebecca, and their fairly newborn son Kelso. So they are Tennille is a wonderful chef, Jamaican, and really into history in general, Black history, her cultural and other cultures' history as well. So she specializes really in like fusing flavors from around the world, but especially when it comes to traditionally black cultural flavors, whether it's Jamaican, West African, and that kind of thing, and creating amazing meals. So we've been working with them. They were our first sort of pop-up, and ever since that moment, I mean, we've stuck with them. They've done some amazing meals from when we were open, obviously pre-COVID. The last one that they did was our first year anniversary, and they did beautiful, what they called Nyammerito. So their twist on a burrito, and something that we wanted, something that was easy, sort of street foodish, but this is like gourmet and the most flavorful stuff you've ever had. So Nyam at home right now is basically we're trying to help each other out, promote some small business love. They've created a meal that is semi prepped and semi DIY. So you'll be cooking some food at home, spicing some stuff up yourself, but spice kits or spices are all put together for you, and makes it really easy. And it's foolproof. It comes with sort of the recipe, the how-to every step of the way. So I don't think it's possible to really screw it up. So so it's available again on our website as well. So you have to order by tomorrow, and you can pick up this fresh meal pack on Saturday from 2 to 5. They did sort of a Father's Day / kind of long weekend kit as well, which included ribs and chicken wings, and it was like, it was really easy. Of course, they give you the rub, and you feel like a chef because you're rubbing it on the ribs and cooking it. But I mean, and they give you the timing of everything, and it's pretty amazing what they do. So, and we'll be working with Chef Tennille as well on our first batch of we don't really know what we're calling it, but sort of a nod to our community's culture. So we're going to be doing I think we'll be going with I'm not going to let the cat out of the bag, but special recipe beer and some fun labels and stuff like that. So working with local artists and chefs.
Oh, that sounds fantastic. I'm looking forward to
should be fun
seeing that when it comes out.
Yeah.
Two questions left to ask you to get myself caught back up.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask the second one first, only because the first one's going to be a little involved.
Okay.
What was something Rich taught you about brewing that blew you away?
I think that it was possible for the average person to learn to do, to get, half decent beer. I think that was the thing. I kind of like sourdough. I don't know if you guys, it's COVID. That's like the COVID standard right now, is everybody's making sourdough, right? So, but it seems extremely complicated and unachievable. But if you set some time aside and some energy to learn, then it's like many other skills that you can learn and you can actually do it. So especially on a homebrew scale, I was very surprised to know that that could be it could be created at home. I think like many other careers, or like, sorry, I should say like many careers, there's a kind of a path in stone that you graduate high school and then you go to university and take a degree in English and then go to teacher's college and become an English teacher. That's a sort of a very straightforward path. Or, you go to law school and become a lawyer, but there's so many different careers and things that are sort of unknown prior to, I guess, like Niagara College's brewing program and a few other brewing programs around the world, but something that you don't really know how to get to. So homebrewing turns out was, for us, the first step to being pro brewers. So, and who knew? It started off as a hobby, and it remained a hobby. There was, jokes about starting a brewery over beers and that kind of thing. And it did not really turn serious until, of course, like 8 and 9 years later. So I kind of rambled there about that story, but yes, Rich blew my mind with adding hops to beer, basically, and how we continue to do so.
I don't think you rambled. I think you answered the question. It's the story that we've all been waiting to hear.
Yeah.
How this happened.
Yeah.
Chirac wants to know a little bit more about his with Scotch stories and barrel aging.
Scotch stories.
Scotch stories, yeah.
Yeah.
So when you were at Glenmorangie, you were a taster.
Well, yeah, you have to be a taster. There's no two ways about it. That was an eye opener. My first drink was Scotch because we had a bottle. My parents kept a bottle of it, Valentine's, in the cabinet for my grandmother. That was what she drank. And that was my first drink at, early high school. And after that, I stayed off booze. I did not touch it again for years because it was the grossest thing they could have had available. So, it's funny enough, it kind of, came full circle, and, I ended up working at this really cool job at the brewery. Did everything from sort of handyman stuff on site, but a lot of filling barrels, fixing barrels, and throughout cellaring, emptying barrels, that kind of, not emptying barrels into a trough, which went to a truck and into bottles. But so it was really neat process. But of course, tasting them, and along the way, sometimes right from the cask, and sometimes in the gift shop afterwards. But it really opened my eyes to what wood, not only what wood can do, but what was aged in the wood prior to. So, I mean, pretty much the status quo for Scotch is that, they all come from Jim Beam and Jack Daniels, and they're American oak casks. And, so a lot of the flavor from Scotch comes from there. But I was there lucky enough at a time when they were getting some, Burgundy, sherry, all sorts of different casks. And so it was really, really cool to taste that. Even trying to think of another really fancy one, but a few like champagne casks, that kind of thing. So it was really, really neat to see what that could do. And it translates in a way to, you put aging beer in casks and knowing a bit about what happens in the wood process. It's very different than stainless, or in our case, like plastic fermenters.
Yep. Nick has an interesting question. He wants you to tell us about the moment when you realized, hey, we should actually sell this beer, and decided to start Counterpoint.
Oh, I mean, it was, Rich makes, has always made, well, I don't know about always, since I've known him, has made really good beer. He's had a couple flops like any homebrewer, any good homebrewer. But it was really a matter of convincing him. I think it puts a lot of pressure on someone. It's like taking a hobby that you really love to do, on the weekend or when you have some time, and turning it into a job. It can be great but it could also be a little more stressful. So that was probably the biggest one of the bigger challenges, was to just sort of get them on board. I mean, instead of just sharing with your friends when you know it's good beer, you're looking at making a living off of it and supporting yourself and your family, and having a reputation as a business. So that in itself was probably the biggest challenge. But I think inside, Rich knew that he was so meticulous, and he made good beer, that every beer he made on a homebrew scale received a lot of care and attention and planning. And that just meant that it would translate to the same thing on a commercial scale. So the moment was probably when we had the idea. I mean, when it came down to it, we had initially a couple more people involved in the very, very early stages of planning. And it then took a turn into being very serious. And yeah, we just realized that it was sellable. It was sellable, and definitely shareable.
Mandy asked sort of a similar question, but how did you know when you wanted to make that plunge?
Sorry, wanted to make that
plunge to turn your hobby into a career.
Still don't.
Maybe
I'll
give it a little bit of context. I think the first question really focuses on the brew aspect of things, but I think what both Mandy and I are curious about is when you go, cool, this is like a fun hobby I have, into maybe this is something I want to do as a career. So like a little bit more high level philosophical almost.
You're standing on a 30-meter board and you've never jumped, and now you're going to jump.
30 meters looks a lot smaller from the ground level. Oh man. It's still something that, it's still a little bit scary. And even sort of obviously an easy example of it still being a plunge. I still feel like we're falling or jumping, taking that jump. But going through COVID happens, and within 3 months, there's, everything from quarantine isolation period to closing our doors to reopening slightly to, you can have patios and all these changes. I mean, they've affected everybody. So I feel like it's not just us, but that's just one example of many. But the plunge, it was really more of a question of how could I not? I think when it came down to it, we sort of made the decision. We had some momentum, and we committed to moving forward with a plan. And so that wasn't necessarily the full plunge, but it was, Rich has a great way of describing it, a series of dares, almost like, hey, let's just put together a business plan or a rough stschedule of what we can do in the next few months to plan out a brewery. All right, can you start putting together a business plan, and I'll do these parts and do those parts, and then it came together, right? And then it was a business plan, and then we're like, maybe we should just check out a few spots and see what's available in real estate, and it just sort of built momentum and snowballed. And the next thing you know, we had ripped apart our space and we were framing out walls, and there was no turning back. We had signed a lease, and we're like, all right, we're in now. We're in deep. So let's move. But it was kind of it was fun. There was momentum, and we decided not to turn back and go with it. I think we would have regretted it. You hear it all the time. I think a lot of small business owners going from career job to entrepreneurial side of things. I never in my life would have imagined myself owning a business. So again, it just sort of happened. It came about, and we went for it. But Rich too. Rich will tell you that as well. He was not. Neither of us are entrepreneurials.
Well, you definitely took the plunge.
Yeah.
Bob wants to know, do you sell everything you brew, or do you occasionally have to dump?
Ooh, good question. We have not had to dump anything. There's one batch we feel that we probably should have dumped. Now, that being said, it wasn't infected or bad in any way. It just wasn't up to what we felt was a great, like a great beer. We are sitting on one right now that we just packaged, but we might have to dump. So, and from what I understand, we're not a real brewery until we've dumped a full batch of hundreds of liters of beer that we've spent weeks making. So we'll see how that goes. I have a feeling it's going to go down the drain, unfortunately. So, but hey, what do you do?
So we've surpassed the hour. If you're okay going onward, I'm going to keep going onward.
Yeah, for sure. I think
Okay.
an hour.
Ed wants to know how easy Ed wants to know how easy your location was to pick.
Mm-hmm. Our location, a bit of chance and a bit of timing. We had been looking at a number of different places, which came with a lot of time spent sort of scouting out areas, as well as sort of researching a lot of work that was necessary and a lot of work that sort of ended up being redundant. We kind of went tactical and set up a map, just like one of those tourist maps or GRT maps, and sort of circled breweries that were existing, and we're kind of aiming for underserviced areas. But it turns out those underserviced areas were underserviced for a reason, mainly being like zoning and availability of space there. So, for instance, we were looking at Waterloo, since the only existing breweries at the time were, and still are, Innocente and Aberb. So there's a huge gap there where there are no breweries, and yet no breweries will. Oh, I guess there was there. No, the brick wasn't there at the time, but huge gap there that should be filled, could be filled, except for the fact that there's no space for them there. Yeah. Or there is, but it was not in our budget. We had the special, of course, restrictions of being super frugal and not having multi-million-dollar investors and that kind of thing. So we were tight. We were tight with our budget, but we decided to stick with it. We ended up finding this place. It was available. We didn't really think that that plaza was an ideal spot for a brewery. We didn't, sitting beside a Hilti, a flooring store, the deck store, come on, it just doesn't make sense. And yet turned out we were so happy we got that place. We were at top end of budget, but it's huge, bigger than we need. But the idea, number one piece of advice that we got repeatedly from other breweries was get as much space as you can afford, and we're thankful we did. So, and it turns out we've got amazing Ed. We've got amazing neighborhood. It is exactly what I was getting to, Ed, before you chimed in there. Amazing people nearby. It's way more accessible than I thought by sort of bus, bike, walking, and then of course it's Victoria Street, so it's one of the busiest streets in the area. Kind of a pain that there's no driveway off Victoria Street, but it's still, at least it's visible, and still get a lot of traffic. So it's turned out to be really, really exciting spot and really neat to be there.
Mm-hmm. Chirag has a multi-layered question for you. Starts out by, what do you think is next for you as a brewery? And he's thinking less in terms of beer and more with regards to scaling your business. And are there any interesting milestones you're looking forward to?
Yeah. Scaling is something that is, very exciting to think about, and we definitely want to do. I feel like it's easy for us to get ahead of ourselves. And well, I mean, it's not a bad thing, right? Dream a little, dream big, dream a bit big. Back up a little bit and say, all right, what's realistic, and when can we do that? For us, scaling up means a little bit more equipment, a little bit bigger equipment, which right now, to explain, during normal operation, we're looking at 4 to 5 brews a week. 4 of those, or I guess 2 of those would be sort of double brew days, and then a single brew day for maybe a sour or smaller batch. But for our main beers that we're putting out there, you know, so that's 10 to 12 hours per day of brewing, because we have such a small system. So if we were to scale up a little bit, then we could make life a lot easier for us. But that comes with a pretty big cost. Right now, if you've seen our system, it's like basically a homebrew system with a couple of, you know, pumps and cheap, effective silicone hoses and that kind of thing, plastic fermenters, which for us have worked quite well and are very much more affordable than stainless fermenters. So it would be nice, and yeah, I know we'll get there as long as we continue on this sort of, you know, positive trajectory of slow and growing slowly. We were looking at purchasing a piece of equipment prior to COVID, but decided to hold off, and for many reasons. But you know, maybe that'll happen afterwards as we begin to recover and open up.
Bob wants to know how much help you got from other local brewers.
Lots, yeah, so much help. Initially, I think just sort of us being a bit, we're a little bit timid about and intimidated by the thought of opening a business, by the thought of opening a business, you know, similar, well, the same business as many of our sort of friends and, I guess, you know, idols in the area. So we reached out to, I don't know if you guys know Jason at Indie Ale House. He's very well known in the beer world, very outspoken, and yet super supportive of any wannabe brewer. So he spends, sounds like, you know, a couple times a month, he spends his Friday nights chatting with guys who want to open a brewery. How many of those people do it, I'm not sure, but you know, his time is really valuable, and it's really neat that he is supportive. But one of the first things he asked is, why did you come out to Toronto to talk to me about opening a brewery? You've got, you know, so many people in town. And you know, we thought about it, and it was kind of silly, but I think it's a first step. It was also just, for us, it was safe, where we weren't stepping on anybody's toes, and just wanted to get an idea of what it took and what we needed to do. And then after that, we just started asking everybody in town. So we were stepping on everybody's toes and talking to them. But it, you know, as the more we got to know the industry and the people in it, the more we realized that there were no toes to step on. Everybody's here to help everybody, and you know, all on the same team. Just looking to take a little piece of the beer pie from some of the big guys and make good beer for good people. Yeah. I don't know if anybody else is willing to go for number 4. This one, I promise, will not explode on you. This is 20 hertz, so this is their second round of 20 hertz, and it's a bourbon barrel aged imperial stout. It was a fresh bourbon barrel from Heaven Hill Distilleries, and this aged for 1 year in the bourbon barrel.
That's a huge investment of time and money, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, definitely. And I can't remember, was it Chirag who was asking about barrel aged beers and that kind of thing? But Yeah, definitely. It's exciting, and I guess there's a little bit of risk when you talk, well, quite a bit of risk when you talk about putting beer in a barrel. I think the biggest piece of information I've taken from reading up and listening to let's say podcasts about aging beer in barrels, and coming down to it, playing with it in our own house, is that you can lose a lot of control, or all control of your beer as soon as you put it into wood. So it's just one of those things where there's chance of infection, that kind of thing, but also it's there's oxygen involved, there's wood, so many factors. In time, it's only ready when it tells you it's ready. It's not the same as any conventional method of creating beer,
especially when you're doing a Russian Imperial as well.
Yeah.
Very critical.
Yeah, I mean, it is. It's ready when it's ready. So, cheers, everybody.
Cheers, Graeme.
Sorry, I just realized it's getting kind of dark on my end, so I hope we can still see. At least that damn cardinal shut up.
Jen has a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
She's curious what your favorite local brewery besides Counterpoint is.
You are asking me that?
Well, Jen's asking you. I'm not.
Let's see. A few. I don't know. I can't say I have one favorite. But I definitely love what I love what Shortfinger is doing. And I think just I'm a little biased because of the fact that they were my introduction to homebrew, and everybody, like basically I think everybody's introduction to homebrew in the area. So supportive of beer in general. They do so much for the community, like whether it's fundraising or awareness, and creating alliances with local organizations that they're just so well. Their goals are just aligned with what I love to see in a brewery, in any business, but especially beer. I love their staff, and I love the structure that they have with their education program with Kat, and they've got a great team there with Stu and Mike, and of course Rob, and they're just always open to discussing everything and helping everybody out as well. So but I think that everybody, TWB as well, they're so community focused. It's hard to say,
there's so many
great breweries. And we couldn't have done it without anybody. Speaking of sort of somebody, I can't remember who asked, but who really helped us from the beginning. I mean, Royal City, even though they're way out in Guelph, we chatted with them a bit, and but they actually provided us with some equipment that we wouldn't have probably would have not been able to open without. So super thankful for those guys, and advice, equipment. There's so much there that we wouldn't have been able to open without. So
I think we're running out of daylight and a little bit of time.
Mm-hmm.
Graeme wanted to know if there's such a thing as a boutique brew pub.
I'm going to have to read that question, because we're
it's way up there.
Boutique brew pub. I mean, can you unmute yourself and elaborate on that, Graeme?
So if I were to give you two brew pubs, which one was boutique? Hoother Lion and or Aber, which would be a boutique brew pub? Neither? Ed says neither.
I don't know. That's a good question. In my mind, I mean,
if you were to,
I think that, I don't know. I mean, sorry. Go ahead. What were you going to elaborate on?
Well, if you were to build a scale, Hoother Lion is an OG brew pub. Amsterdam, the one out by St. Jacobs or wherever out there, or not St. Jacobs. Anyway, there's old school brew pubs or brew restaurants.
Yeah.
There's Boutique, or Aberb is one of the newest ones in Waterloo, in downtown Waterloo.
Well, I don't know. Are there any, like, I mean, besides Aberb and Hoother, I don't know that there are really any other brew pubs, right?
Heidelberg has a restaurant out there.
Right. I know something's going on out there, but
old school.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think like the original, I'd say probably the original Aberb sort of uptown was boutique-y, but they've grown quite a bit. So I don't know if that would be still considered boutique. I'm not sure. Hoother, I don't know. I mean, they were as long as I've known the Hoother, they're pretty big. I mean, I don't know how much beer they produce, but it's a monster of a building and monster. It doesn't feel very boutique to me, but just my opinion. I don't know.
Derek has been very well behaved this week. So I do have to go to his question. Is there any method or scheme behind the choice of which beers get which color of label?
I love it. That's so funny. Who asked that? Derek. Awesome. Hard to say. I feel like
it was each one was an individual tier, and then now it seems you have a bunch of new colors and much more than 3 labels. So
yeah, so definitely. I mean, we had the pink label, the original. Lots of taco OG tonight, so that was the OG label, because it was sort of our branding colors and something that originally designed. We just figured we'll go with that on every bottle. We got the label on the back, and then we were like, yeah, well, let's mix it up a bit, have some more color in our bottle fridge, and I don't know, maybe it looks a little more pro, maybe not. But when it comes to those ones, I feel like subconsciously, yes, like it's really hard for me not to label our stouts with that dark blue, label, and our hoppy ones, with the green. Like it's just one of those things where I'm like, it's just like default. And some of our traditional or repeat beers, I just go to pink because like that's what we used to label those ones with. So that stuff, yeah, for sure. I no real reason except for just sort of like habit or like, kind of one of those underlying feelings. Of course, with our new barrel-aged beers, which I mean, we've come out with 2 in the last few weeks, and then we should have another one ready in the next few weeks as well. We wanted to make those a little more special, put a little more into them. So we've got our barrel-aged series labels, which to me, I think a little more classy and distinguished, and kind of fun for us to be able to set those apart. As Bill said, they're a little more time consuming and take a little more I don't know, a little more finesse when it comes to blending and that kind of thing. So kind of a reward for ourselves too, but also to let the customers know.
Interesting.
Any favorite colors, favorite label colors?
I like some of the new ones. The blue is really cool.
Yeah.
This just seems new.
Yeah.
I just like the wavelength pattern and stuff too. Are those just kind of random, or is there any kind of musical link to the?
Yeah, a little bit of like the first one was kind of which sort of on our t-shirts and our growlers and stuff is like those sort of sound waves that we kind of went with, and then you'll see, I think on the orange and green is supposed to be like that screen on an amplifier. And then you've got the blue one, which has kind of like the bass sort of shockwave kind of look to it. So, yeah.
That's cool. I've noticed the change lately, and I like it. So. Yeah,
right on. We've kind of played around with a couple of suppliers too, so and their colors have been a bit different, so you may notice more changes than intended. But yeah, the blue, green, orange, and then the OG pink.
Oh.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Of course. Yeah.
Graeme, Mandy, and I'm gonna this could be the last question. Mandy has some questions for you.
So, Graeme, I think I'm trying to figure out how to formulate it, but what I find with you guys in particular at Counterpoint is your branding seems super on point. I know we just had a discussion about how you're still maybe refining some of the colors, but I think what I noticed about you guys is your name got out there really early, in so from a PR standpoint, a marketing standpoint, you guys have always seemed to be a little bit ahead of some of the other breweries in town when it comes to your marketing strategy. Can you maybe talk about like where your maybe inspiration came behind it, how you figured out your, like, when you started talking about the business plan, like how much marketing played into that and how quickly, like, I don't know, maybe just freestyle it a bit.
Yeah, for sure. Can you guys give me 1 second? And I'm just going to move inside, and then I'll be back with you.
Yep. By the way, Bill, this stout is real interesting. A lot of tones to it.
There are a lot of different things happening with this stuff.
Yeah.
Definitely get the bourbon barrel coming through.
Yes. Okay, that's what that is. Yeah. Bill, you're going to have to refine my palate someday, because I just taste things and I don't always know what they are, and I need you to help me narrow that down. Not going to lie.
Okay. We'll work on it.
Yeah, that works.
Welcome to my house. Yeah, I guess we can talk. I mean, I don't know that I had anything to pull from or learn from, I think, other than, or where I got sort of our playbook when it came to marketing or anything like that. I think wanted to play somewhere in between. I other than sort of watching other businesses and other breweries, and you know, take from that the messages that I liked, because I think it's also very easy to go over the top when it comes to social media marketing, social media in general, and just making a point of sort of encapsulating a message without overdoing it, I think, and just making sure that the important stuff gets out there. With regards to our name getting out there early, I thought that it was important to set up, you know, a bit of a presence, and also just, I guess, kind of cheesy, but you know, trying to gather a bit of a following prior to opening. I thought was fairly important. Obviously, you know, we want people to know that we're there, what we're doing, when we're opening, and that kind of thing. But otherwise, I don't know what to say. I mean, really, just again, it's sort of along the lines of displaying our values. You know, we're in our heart on our sleeve, and just being real about what's going on or what we're doing. I mean, really, most of our posts are just, you know, beers, what we're releasing, and you know, what we have to offer. Otherwise, otherwise a bit of our initiatives and projects and what we have on the go. So I don't know, no secrets, no like real, again, just sort of us being us, and not overthinking it or overdoing it. But hope that answers. I don't know if you have any follow-up to that.
If I could chime in for a second, Graeme,
yeah.
I don't think I've been exposed to any of your marketing. I found out about you guys by word of mouth. And I tell all my friends about you guys because you guys are awesome. Like, I don't know how to describe it other than these guys are absolutely awesome. And I think that connects with what you're saying about being genuine. Like, the reason to go to Counterpoint is you make great beer and you guys are awesome. I hope that follows up what you're saying.
Yeah, I think that's huge, right? I mean, that's something that's by no means sort of, I guess, you know, we don't go out of our way to go the extra mile when it comes to marketing or advertising. I mean, we've done a few, you know, in the past, I'd say, paid advertisements for beer releases, especially when it came to sort of uncertain times like COVID or when we're a little slow or whatever, then, you know, we'll pay a few extra bucks for Instagram ads and that kind of thing. But I think really what it comes down to is our actions. And again, like, of course, word of mouth and coming from our customers who like us and like our beer and will bring their friend in, and hopefully they'll bring their friend in. The best feeling, I mean, I have ever had at Counterpoint is just seeing, you know, our repeat customers, like our regulars. And it's the coolest thing ever to have a regular customer. It means a lot, because if you're back for a second time, then it means you liked our beer the first time. And I love that our customers also really get to know us and get to know our beer. Like we have so many people that come in and say, hey, what's new this week? I already had this, you know, what's new? And so one of those things when we opened was, you know, do we change up our beers? Do we have core beers? All this sort of stuff. And I think we made sort of a pretty good decision on just saying, let's just brew whatever. And people, our craft beer fans have loved it and enjoyed new stuff all the time. So, but yeah, I mean, I can't thank, like, I think I'd thank you for spreading the word, because, and I know that, you know, all of our customers have brought new people in and friends and have returned, because, and it means a lot to us. So that's probably, yeah, way more valuable than any sort of marketing and promotions or campaigns we've ever done.
And Graeme, that's part of the reason I asked the question, is because I think maybe marketing was the wrong way of putting it, but I think you guys have really done a good job of establishing the brand of Counterpoint, where, like the way Ed said it, where it was like, yeah, just like word of mouth, and like, but that's like really high level marketing, where you can just get word of mouth spread. And I think even the fact that, well, it just might be like a sort of bit of an accident where if you search Counterpoint Brewing, it's like KW's newest craft brewery. I think all those words are very intentional in a lot of ways and work really well for your brand, where you're not trying to do more than you are, but establish yourself as really strong, limited number of beers, but all of them are good, personalized service. I think it works really, really well for you guys. And all the times that I've come in, I've noticed that. So yeah, just like a total testament to, even if entirely accidental, your branding is really rock solid.
Thanks. I mean, so I have to give, of course, credit to, we did hire a branding design team for website, logo and that kind of thing. So that definitely was something we didn't want to skimp out on. There's no way. I mean, I kind of built a half-ass GoDaddy free website, you know, right off the start, just to get the domain, get us out there, kind of thing. Yeah, we're lucky. We had a really good team that sort of set that part up. And so when you do Google us and you see like KW's newest brew, which I should probably change because we're definitely not anymore. But yeah, those things are really important, and yeah, really cool that that they get noticed. It's maybe also a lot that we don't really notice on our end, but you know, we're not the ones necessarily searching or noticing these things as well. So feedback like that is, it's really cool. Yeah, that's great to know.
Graeme, this has been fantastic. I want to thank you on behalf of everybody for taking time this evening to do the tasting and the chat with us. Next week, people, Steve at Innocente, founder, head brewmaster, is going to do a chat and a tasting with me. Unfortunately, I didn't get the beers until later today, so they will be up on the website, kickoffannex.ca. And the following week, Alan Petrobaum is going to join us. He's a former alumni at Kickoff, and he's a full professor now down in Washington. And he did a talk that he's released so that you'll be able to pre-watch it on Prohibition. And then he has agreed to take sort of a Q&A in 2 weeks' time on that one. So Graeme, thank you. I totally appreciate that you took the time to be with us this evening.
Of course, it
Thank
was
you all
my
of you.
pleasure. It was awesome to see everybody here, and yeah, thanks to everybody who picked up a tasting pack and who's been supporting us. It's been really cool and great to converse with you and Graeme. Man, you can bring that to the brewery anytime.
Thanks, Graeme.
Awesome, guys. Take care.
Have a good night, guys.
All right. Hope to see
Thanks,
you soon.
Graeme.
Yeah, bye.